Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jennie will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. I'm your host, Jennie Bellinger, your direct sales dom, helping you whip your business into shape. And today I have with me Mimi Maclean. She is a serial entrepreneur, business school grad, a CPA, angel investor, and host of the Badass CEO podcast. She started the Badass CEO podcast to share everything she learned from investing in successful companies and from working with incredible female founders. Through their courses, blog, and podcast, you can learn excellent business strategies, how to persevere through struggles, and what it takes to start and run a company, straight from women who have disrupted industries and turned opportunities into wins. So welcome to the show, Mimi.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. Now, this is really fun because not only are you a badass CEO and a CPA and an angel investor, you're also in the world of direct sales along with the rest of us. That is so great to hear. So tell us what company you're with and how did you get into that business?
Sure. I'm with Beauty Counter and I kind of came into it. I never thought I would do it, to be honest with you, into direct sales. I actually invested in Beauty Counter in the friends and family round like 9 years ago before we even launched. I was friends with Greg and she had, we were talking one day and she was like, you're the only other person I know that like buys their makeup at Whole Foods and that's super into like healthy eating and products. And so she was, telling me about this idea that she wanted to start this company. And so my husband and I invested in it. And then fast forward like a year, 18 months later, when she launched, I said to my husband, I'm going to join as a consultant. And he's like, you are? And then he's like, you don't even really wear makeup. Like, why would you do that? And I was like, I'm going to do it because we invested in the company. So it's just a great way to learn about it. And 2, I believe in the product and the mission. And 3, I kind of was like, it's a great way to learn retail because I had done retail before. I worked for a couple of companies as a buyer. And so I was like, I never really have done direct sales before. And because I went to business school for entrepreneurship, it just was for me, like a light bulb kind of went off where I was like, wait, this is like being an entrepreneur, running your own company without having the risk, having started a couple of companies before, going into direct sales, I realized how expensive companies were, how high risk they were, how much time you put in and you don't get paid for years on end because you're always putting your money back into the business. And that's even if it's successful, right? So I was kind of like, wait, why don't now more women do this? Because pretty quickly, without that much of an investment, you're like the CEO of your own company in a sense, and you make money right away and you don't have to deal with the problems of like, sourcing and the marketing and like, you're just kind of do all the fun stuff and the selling and you don't have to worry about like something's out of stock and so I was like, this is just like being an entrepreneur, but without the risk. So that's kind of why I dove into it. And it's been a great ride. It's been 8 years. And I'm a managing director and I have a pretty large team around the country. And I just love how the flexibility that it lets you be able to kind of ebb and flow with the business and what's going on in your life. I've been dealing with Lyme disease for the past 6 years and it's kind of taken a toll on me. So I have not been as involved with the company as I would have liked to have been, which is great because that's what you have a team for, because then other people kind of pick up the slack. And that's kind of what's nice working with other women. So that kind of understands like the balance of family and working. So
I love that. So what's really fun is that you and I now get to talk about, because I I often say here on the podcast, business is business is business. I don't care what your business model is, whether it's direct sales or a quote unquote traditional model, right? So what I'd love to hear from you, from your perspective, is what are the similarities that you find between direct sales and more traditional businesses? Because you've also started other businesses. What are some of the similarities in there that have helped you become successful in your direct sales business?
That's a great question. I think, it's interesting because you have to have a passion, right? You have to have passion for what you are selling, quote unquote. I say it's selling and it's not really selling, because if you have passion for it, you're sharing it and you're educating people. So you have to have that passion for the product. And if you don't have that, then you're not selling the right thing, because people can see through you selling, like and pushing product. So if you're not using it and really believing in it, then you pick you got to change course. So the same thing with if you started a business, you have to believe in it. You have to be passionate about it, because if you either started a business or you're in direct sales, there's going to be a lot of bad days. Right. And there's got to be a lot of problems, and there's a lot of no's. And so you have to be willing to kind of dust yourself off and get back up and get back on that horse and be willing to keep going. And sales, even though I had been in sales kind of loosely because of retail, I had not ever really been in direct sales where I'm actually selling to people. So that's when you realize there are problems. There are going to be things that go wrong. There are going to be things that are out of stock or things get delivered wrong, either if you have your own company or that. So it's just kind of your outlook on how you're approaching it. I'm going to do this. It's a mindset thing, right? Because everybody I talk to on my podcast, that are CEOs, I'm why do you think you're successful? And they're it's a mindset. It's a resilience thing. And it's being able to kind of see through your immediate hurdles and know that okay, this is where I want to be. And I don't care what it's going to take me to get there. So with direct sales, it's okay, I know I want to reach the top of the whatever it's called. In my company, it's called managing director. I know I want to reach that, or I want to reach a trip, or I want to reach whatever incentive they have. Right. So it's a matter of putting your mind to it and saying, I'm going to do it no matter what. So if it's the 30th of the month and you have a day left, you're staying up, you're putting yourself out there to get to that level. So it's the same idea of having your own company where you're I need to reach these numbers at the end of the month, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you that you've got to have a passion for everything, because if you don't have a passion for the product and not necessarily for the product, because not many people are truly passionate about oils themselves here, or whatever your product may be, right? Whether it's oils, makeup, whatever. Like you said, makeup wasn't necessarily your thing, but you love the idea of a clean, organic type makeup, right? And so I think for other people where the passion comes into play is what are the benefits that people are getting from your product, right? Or your service, depending on what your business model is. So as you've been going through and building this beauty counter business, what have you found to be maybe a struggle or something that was tricky for you at first that you've overcome?
Well, it's interesting. I never thought, first of all, it would be so hard, right? You expect your friends to be oh yeah, I'm going to support you and buy as much as you want them to, or, you just post something and then they come running to buy the product. It's so much harder than you think it is. So getting that mindset around it. And I think what I've established too is it's all numbers. So getting the personal connection out of it, meaning don't take it personally when you get a rejection, because it's hard, the rejection, especially right off the bat when you're not used to it. And especially when you have expectations from people. So realizing that okay, it's purely numbers game. If you want one new consultant this month, you need to ask 10 people. If you want X sales, you need to, you want one person showing up at your, trunk show or your pop-up, you need to, it's a 10-to-1 ratio, no matter what. And every 10 consultant you sign up, maybe one's going to work, and then the rest just fall off. And then then you're like, wait, why did you sign up? Like, why did you even pay the money to sign up if you're not even doing anything? So getting your head around that, like, why aren't people like me? Like, why aren't people like go-getters and not making excuses and just like being consistent? That was a hard thing to realize. Like, I don't understand why all these people signed up and they're not doing anything, or they're not like just even trying or being consistent. So, but it's numbers. And I think if you can convince people that, like, it's numbers, don't be upset when you send out 100 emails and only 10 people respond to you. Like, warning people that that's what the case is, or you invite people to an event or to a online thing, it's 10 to 1. Maybe you're lucky to get 20 to 80, but it's not as easy as you think. So that was kind of getting your head around, and just knowing it's a numbers game. If you read any of these books about marketing, it's all a numbers game. It's what it comes down to. So take the personal connection out of it. The other thing I would say about that too is, like, for me now, I've realized, like, I'd rather ask acquaintances than good friends, because there's no expectation. So ask people that you have no expectations from, because then you're pleasantly surprised. It's the worst when you ask people that you're expecting them to sign on, say yes, help you buy something, and then they don't. And you're like, wait, you're my good friend. Like, I did this for you, or I did that for you, or I come to you every month to get my haircut and you're not even going to try a lipstick. Like, what? Like, why would I keep supporting you if you're not going to support me? So it's kind of like, you have to be in a position to kind of mentally get your head around that. And if you're willing to kind of blow up that relationship, then ask them. But if you're not, then don't ask them.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too. I think, because one of the things that I used to train my team on, and I train my clients on now, is when you're going to do, let's say, a booking blitz for pop-ups, boutiques, parties, whatever you want to call it, or if you're going to do a bunch of calls for, offering the opportunity to people. One of the things I do is I tell them, when you make the list of people, then take that master list and break it into the people who you are certain are going to say no, the people who you think maybe they're like 50-50 or 60-40, one direction or the other, but they're not 100% yes, they're not 100% no. Anybody in the middle goes in the second list. And then the third list are the people who you are sure are going to say yes. And then I tell them, start with the no list.
Mm-hmm.
Start with the people that you are sure are going to say no. Because here's the thing. If they say no, guess what? They just met your expectation.
Yeah,
awesome.
Exactly.
I was right. Celebrate the fact that you were right. Then anybody who was on your no list who says, well, you know what? I think I'd like some more information. Then you get this little dopamine hit.
Yeah, you're happy.
Oh my gosh. They said, well, they didn't say yes, but they said maybe. They want to learn more. They're willing to go to the 3-way call with my upline, or however it is that, each company handles it, right? So that, start with your no's, go to the maybes, and then finish with the yeses. Because if you do it the other way around, if you start with the people who you are sure are going to say yes, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah, you get bummed out and you stop.
Someone is probably going to say no. And then you're like, oh, I thought they were a yes for sure, right? But if you're already in celebratory mode, that, hey, you already got 3 yeses from your no list and 3 yeses from your maybe list, and, one no from your yes list, you'll get over it. You're like, okay,
that's a
cool.
good approach.
I've already got 6 yeses. I'm good. This is awesome. So,
and like, I love that book. Have you read Getting to Know?
I haven't read it, but I've heard.
It's one of my
favorite
books. It's one of my favorite. And that's kind of what the idea is, like, getting to know, like, you actually are not counting like yeses, you're counting your no's.
Yeah. Jack Canfield actually recommends that people read that book.
It's one of my favorite ones.
Oh, okay. I'm adding it to my list now. If you and Jack Canfield are talking about it, I think I should probably.
Yeah, it's just what you're just talking about. It's changing your mindset. Like, you're not finished. Like, if you say in your mind, like, I need to get 2 sales this month. And so as soon as you get 2 sales, you stop. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So you're like, no. I want to get 100 no's. So then you keep going until you get the no's, not the yeses. Because then it's like, if you do happen to get the yeses right off the bat, you don't stop.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's super cool. I hadn't heard that piece of it. I had heard about the 100 no's, but I hadn't heard the reasoning why. And that makes perfect sense, because I think that's very true with some of my clients I've seen, over the years, is that they hit their goal for the month, whatever their income goal might be. Let's say they hit it by the 25th of the month. You still have somewhere between 5 and 7 days to continue working. And a lot of people will stop. They'll be like, I hit my goal.
Yeah,
cool,
done. Yeah,
done.
exactly.
And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Keep going. Keep going. Don't like make the expectation.
6 days. What are you doing? Do you know how much can happen in 6 days? That's, oh my God,
Yeah, it's true.
So, and I learned that again, kind of the hard way in working with even some of my team members early on, because I would say, guys, work to hit your quota by the 15th of the month. Don't be struggling on the 30th. That's stupid because everybody's going for it on the 30th or 31st of the month. Very few people are struggling to hit their goal by the 15th. So let's work to hit our goal by the 15th of every month, right? So that way, everything that happens after that is gravy, right? So you still book parties after the 15th, whatever, but you try and hit your goal by the 15th. Hit it by mid-month. So that way, if you hit it by the 20th or the 25th, you don't have that pressure of last day of the month anymore.
Exactly.
You've already hit it.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. So now, as you've been working your beauty control business, you've also been working with your podcast and some of your other businesses. How are you balancing all of these, juggling all of these different balls?
It's definitely hard. I definitely have taken a back seat to I'm not growing, as I say in direct sales. It's like you're either growing or you're kind of like, it's very hard to stay neutral. So definitely my priorities have been more towards my personal life and getting better. And then also my podcast. So, but I still, a good thing about direct sales, you still, you can grow your own business, but you have a support system and a team, you have a system that you put in when people sign on, it's not all falls on you if it's doing it correctly. So, I do have uplines. And so, so I do all of it, but it's hard, right? It's I wish there was 3 of me that I could be doing more full time of all of them. Cause then also my kids are wait, another podcast, mom, or, you have to do another this or that, or another, you're getting on another call with another person from your beauty counter team. And so it's that definitely has taken, a toll with the kids, especially because my kids haven't been in school since last March. So we're all home. And so they're just around more. So I just don't have as much time by myself. So it's just balancing it all. It's just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, one of the things, so I hope you feel free. Are you okay with me throwing on my coach's hat and giving you some suggestions around that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So this is something that I've also been working with along with pretty much the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
Because our kids had no idea what we were doing when they were gone at school. And now all of a sudden they're home and they see what we're doing and they're saying, hey, you're doing that again. And so the conversation I've had with my own kids, for example, is to say, hey guys, you guys used to be gone from 8 to 3:30. You had no idea what mommy was doing all day long. Yes, I was on Zoom calls and yes, I was going and having lunches with people and, business meetings and stuff all throughout the day while you were gone. And so when I got home, at 3:15 before you guys got home at 3:30, of course you thought I was always home.
Yeah. Just sitting around waiting for you to come home.
Right. Exactly. So really what I've done is I've done my best to structure my day in such a way that I'm done with my day by 3:30. Cause even though my kids are done with remote learning a little bit earlier than that, I'm still structuring my day and saying, look, I'm going to work 8 to 3:30, just like I used to when you guys were gone at school. So at 3:30, we can hang out again. So I've set that set the expectation with them for what they're wanting, which is time with mom. So I'm like, if you guys can wait till 3:30 and you get all your homework done and you have everything taken care of, because my kids are done by 1:00 in the afternoon here.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you've got 2.5 hours now to finish all your assignments. And then we can play, we can go do things in the afternoon, but you have to be done with your stuff first. If you're not done with it, we're not going to play. And so they have that incentive to say, I think I'm going to get that last assignment done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. Yeah. So it's definitely that I'm doing the same thing. I'm on the East Coast, even though the kids' schools are on the West Coast. So they don't really start till 11, but they go to 6. So I just have had to push my whole kind of everything back. Yeah.
Gotcha. So your kids are remote learning on a West Coast school?
Yeah. Because that's where we live. We live in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. So, that's just help to explain the expectation, help set the expectation for the kids, I think is really important. And most people don't even consider that because it's you've got to think of it from your kids' perspective, right? What did they used to see?
Right.
So
exactly.
it's a whole other thing. So before we get going, so your podcast is called Badass CEO Podcast. Who are some of the people that you have interviewed on your podcast?
Sure. I actually have two podcasts. I don't even know if you knew that. I also have a line. It's called Lyme 360. It's called Heal, for my Lyme community that I started, where I interviewed doctors and practitioners about Lyme and all the different things with that. So that's that one. But I know we connected because of the Badass CEO. So I have had everyone from Giada De Laurentiis, to Molly Sims, to, other just various companies that you may or may not have heard of different CEOs. So,
oh, that's awesome. Who would you say was probably your favorite to interview?
Oh, geez. Well, Molly, obviously, because she's one of my closest friends. But so that was fun doing that with her. But just, hearing, I love Jessie Draper too. She was great because she's a venture capitalist for women. So just talking about like women and the different companies that she's invested in, that was really neat. And who else? I mean, they've all been really kind of interesting for their own perspective. Like you come away and they're like, these women are just so normal and down to earth, but yet they have like these kick-ass businesses and they just make it look so easy. And then that's what I try to say to them. Like, you guys always make it look so easy that I think people get off and they're like, wait, there is nothing. Like, so now I ask a question, I'm like, what have you given up? Because like, sometimes they make it look so easy. Like no one's like realizes like, right. Behind, like you kind of have to put on like a straight face, like the Oz, like the Wizard of Oz, because you don't want to like show your hands completely because, you might have like people who are listening and you want to put on you want to fake it till you make it. So like they put on a good show if they even not like, if they're not having struggles, right? Cause like, right. And that's what they were saying. They're like, yeah, you might not know that I'm like struggling to pay next month's, bill, like credit card, but yet I have really good sales and everything looks the part and I've done everything, but it's just a lot of like pieces and putting things together. So it's been really interesting. I mean, I've done, different personal care products all the way to business coaches. To yesterday, I interviewed a CEO who does plant-based shrimp, like all fish products that are plant-based. So I've done it all, from everything from another woman who started, a bee product company, a bee pollen company, which was really interesting, like out of her house, out of need because of her autoimmune illness that helped her solve. Like, so a lot of these women do things out of need, like they see a need in the market to fit something in their life and, then have created it and kind of just made it from there. So it's been really kind of just inspiring to see these women and how they've grown their companies.
Oh, that is super cool. Well, I wanted you to promote that because I want my listeners to understand that you guys are the CEO of your own business. So going and listening to other CEOs and how they do it, and to understand that, yes, they are also making sacrifices in order to get where they are, because there are sacrifices that do happen in all of our businesses. We just got to pick which ones. I think one of the coolest analogies I've ever heard was an analogy that all of us are juggling balls, right? And all of those balls have names on them, but all of those balls are made of different material. So your family ball is made of glass. If you drop your family ball, it's going to crack or shatter and it's harder to put back together. Your business, that's a rubber ball. It'll bounce back. You can always go and restart your business. And I just thought that was a really neat. Your health might be, a squishy ball that if you drop it, it's just going
to, depending if it's hard boiled or not.
Right. Exactly. It's going to be something that's going to fall and maybe like get misshapen, but you can reshape it back into place. And right. Yeah. So it's just taking a look at, what are the different balls you have going in your life and how are you treating them?
The one thing I want to bring up though, is one thing I've learned as I've been doing this, which is kind of eye-opening, is only 1.7% of female entrepreneurs ever reach $1 million in sales. And only 5% of CEOs in country are women. Right. So like, what does that tell you? I mean, I feel like you can't just blame it on like the male dominated culture because that's just an excuse. So like, I've been really trying to dissect that with the CEOs I talk to, because I think it goes back to this business as well, direct sales. It all comes down to like your, women empowerment and our confidence. Right. And so, it's believing that you have a seat at the table, believing that you have the right to be there, believing that you can be successful, and realizing that and going for it and not making excuses, because it's really easy to make excuses. I also kind of always equate it to like losing weight, right? Yeah. Like you can always make like, oh, I don't need to work out today. I don't need to start today. Just one more piece of candy today. And then tomorrow I'll start. Or I don't really need to go for a workout today. Or you could have excuses, right? And so it's the same thing with that business or with like being a CEO of a startup or in corporate America. It's like, don't make excuses because you can have excuses no matter what it is. Like I have had like a consultant one time. Every time I would call her, she would be like, oh, the kids are in school. The kids are out of school. I don't have any internet. It's a holiday. Like literally every time I called her, I'm like, okay, it's either you have excuses or you don't. Like everyone's going through the same thing. Like, so it's either like you want to do it or you don't want to do it, but just stop making excuses and go for it and figure out if that's what you want to do or don't. Like, but just stop making excuses. Ask for help is another big one. I feel like women try to do it all without asking for help. You can't do it all. So anyone who's listening that are direct sales, like that's why you have uplines. That's why you have a system. Use it. Like you should not be creating anything. If you are creating like emails or marketing material or like whatever, like you're reinventing a wheel that already exists. That's a waste of time. Like, no, like if you're not in activity of like selling mode or recruiting mode, then you're wasting your time. So I feel like asking for help, asking for mentorship, trying not to do it all. Like as women, it's like, okay, if you can spend $15 an hour to either get a babysitter or to have someone help you clean your house or to outsource your like laundry, whatever it is, like, and you can make more than $15 an hour, then figure that out and dissect it and like outsource so that you can like make more money and get rid of off your plate things that you don't like doing. Like if you don't like cooking, then find a solution that doesn't like you don't enjoy or that you can make more money doing something else. So I feel like we as women have to kind of dissect that. And like, so I'm working on a book that's going to launch in August about this topic and like how we as women can like, what are we doing wrong that we're not reaching those? And we can't keep making excuses and like really try to figure out what that is. And I also think women don't think big enough. And I don't think they don't think like they can do it or like they, like, if it's that business, like go for the top title, managing director and go as quick as you can. Or if you're launching a business, don't think about selling your candles out of your house at the like local, farmer's market. Yes, do that to like make the product like, and know that it works and people want to buy it. But after that, think big, go raise money, go big or go home, and stop thinking small. And stop, like you said, like empowering your kids over yourself, because I feel like a lot of times we make excuses and enable our children, like let them make their own lunches, save yourself 45 minutes to go work on your own business. Like stop being there on a platter for your kids to kind of like take advantage of you. Like, no, like know that you're entitled to your own time, things that your kids can do, laundry, make their own lunches, help you with dinner, like whatever it is, like farm it out. Like, why are you doing it? Like you focus on something for yourself.
Oh my gosh. Amen. Okay. Everybody skip back, rewind, re-listen to the last about 2 minutes, 15 times.
It's true though. Like we have to stop making excuses and make like put us in our space and figure out what it is that we want. And and it's not to feel guilty or like, like you need to do something for yourself. Like I honestly believe that. And especially going through COVID, like what family doesn't need an extra set of income? You know what I mean? Right. Even if you don't need the money, like, and you're like, your spouse can provide, like who doesn't want that extra vacation or your extra spending money on yourself or just feeling good that you can take care of yourself if something happens to your spouse or whatever.
Or use that extra income to give to your charity of choice. I mean, whatever that is, because we all have that nonprofit that like tugs at our heartstrings that we wish we could give more to. So if you're somebody who's been thinking yourself, well, I'm already making the money I want to make with my business, so why are you stopping there? Right. Go make more money.
You brought that up.
Because donate it.
So I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I do with the income, my personal income from Beauty Counter. I started an organization called the Happy Birthday Foundation, which is ahappybirthday.org. And so I give my proceeds to orphanages and group homes to give them birthdays. So I send them a birthday box and each month the home tells me like how many birthdays they need. And then I send them a box and it has a birthday that arrives on their birthday. Because a lot of these group homes either don't celebrate birthdays at all. So these kids get no birthdays, or they just do one birthday for the entire month for everybody's birthday. They never, ever get individual birthdays. So that's what I do with my proceeds from Beauty Counter.
Oh, that is amazing. amazing. Oh my gosh. So guys, if you don't already have,
Yeah.
if you don't already have a nonprofit,
org.
there you go. Go check out a happybirthday.org. I think that's amazing. I think that's so sweet because interestingly enough, last year around this time, I had the realization that, oh my gosh, because of this pandemic, people aren't hearing other people saying happy birthday to them on their birthday. Like they might be living with their spouse or their family or whatever, but they're probably not necessarily singing happy birthday to somebody. So my little time of joy every day or every other day is getting on Facebook, going to that list of everybody's birthdays and just, clicking on the little voice message thing to everybody, whether I know them or not, and just singing happy birthday. It takes between 10 and 12 seconds for each song. Boom, done. And it just brightens up my day to do it. Cause then I'm just sitting there singing happy birthday over and over and over again.
No, it's good. I text everybody, but I don't, when I get that email list every morning, but I should do that. I don't do a voice text. I should do that.
Oh, it's so fun. It really is a blast because then because here's the thing. I tell everybody, nobody sounds good singing happy birthday. Nobody. It's the worst song for singing ever. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you have a good voice or not. You're just singing happy birthday. No one's expecting more than that. Right.
Yeah. It's
so
true.
if they see a message and plus it makes you stand out because everybody else is writing happy birthday on their wall.
Exactly.
And Facebook cares about it so much that they compile it into this nice little digest that's about yay big on your phone. It's a couple inches tall and it says here, if you want to go see all 736 birthday wishes, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you send them a message with your voice, they get it. They get it.
It's true.
You stand out from everybody else. And so,
as a side note, that's what I always tell to people on my team is like, if you haven't reached out to people, like it takes a long time you don't want to just reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in 20 years and be like, hey, do you want to buy my stuff?
Yeah.
You want to start that relationship. And like, that's a great way of starting that relationship is reach out to people on their birthday. So that way, when you do finally reach out to them to talk to them about your business opportunity or your product or whatever, they're not like, wait, I haven't talked to you. They're like, oh, I hear from you every year on your birthday. Like they're more amenable to like talking to you or listening to you or starting that conversation because you remember their birthday versus just coming out of the blue.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an easy way to start a conversation because almost everybody responds to it in some way, shape, or form. Right. Yeah. And the people who don't respond, it's because they haven't listened to it. They may not have gotten a voice message ever before. And so they don't even know what this thing is that just showed up in their messenger. They're probably looking at it going, I don't even know what to do with that.
Right. They don't know. But everyone wants to have someone listen to wish them a happy birthday.
And everybody who does respond, they respond back by saying, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You're the only person who's saying to me that really brightened my day. It made me smile. Thank you. And then you get to start the conversation and you can continue the conversation. And one of the things that I like sharing with people is that if you want to continue a conversation with somebody, always finish your message with a question.
Yep, exactly. Because then you can say, hey, where are you living now? What are you up to? Da, 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 da. Like, and then you can, right. Exactly. So just keep it going.
Be interested, be curious about this other person and ask a question about them because then they're going to want to answer it. And then they're generally going to ask a question of you. And then you guys makes the conversation easier. So if you're someone who's like, well, my conversations never go anywhere. Well, that's probably because you're not asking them any questions about them.
Exactly.
I can tell the people who know how to have a conversation and the people who don't, because the people who have a conversation they understand that you've got to be interested, not interesting. Those are two very different things. So, well, Mimi, this has been so much fun and so awesome. I thank you so much for sharing your expertise with my audience. I'm curious. So now I got to go look at my podcast form here. Do you have a giveaway for my listeners? Oh, it looks like you do. The top 10 tips for every entrepreneur.
I do. Yeah. So if you go to the badassceo.com, it's in there.
Awesome. So guys, Badass Crew, you guys know how this goes. BDSM Crew, as long as you're not driving, click on the episode on your phone here, scroll up just a little bit. You'll see the link for the top 10 tips for every entrepreneur. Guys, that means all entrepreneurs, including you in the direct sales world. These tips will work for you because business is business is business. I don't care what business model you have. It's all the same. And so tips that will work in one business will work in another. You just got to figure out how to tweak it to work for you. So thank you, Mimi, for sharing that with my audience. I so appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And guys, you know how this goes. Stay tuned because another badass episode is on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jennie Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.